the topic I'm going to explain now is what about the change. Many people always have the problem with the change, which I was getting more messages on the chat window. Uh, so please remember, whenever it comes to change in projects, and we are discussing the changes normally in predictive project management, where we have the process-based approach for the changes. If you will control your mouses so they will not come on the screen, just keep looking on the screen and I will share the uh, whiteboard in the chat windows. Great. So please remember that when we discuss about the topics of change in projects in the predictive way of working, what happens, we actually create documents because we always want to perform in a good way and we always want to plan the things in a better way. So whenever change happens in the form of project management plan, the main document is actually what our project management plan, which is the subsidiary plan of all the management plans plus key baselines plus other 33 documents required for the project. So this project management plan have uh, multiple documents. Let me write one by one. What are the three documents? Let me draw the arrows. You guys can actually see. So whenever it comes to changes, project management plan, we define something called as change management plan. And the purpose of management plan is to define the how. So we will identify that how the changes can be made in the project, how the changes can be made in the project and project. And that's what we will set in the form of. So we'll have the change management plan, which will be a part of our governance strategy, that how the changes will happen in the project, who can approve what type of changes, who have the authority for which type of situations, for what will be the escalation guidelines, who can approve what type of changes. So that is what the purpose of change management plan, at how the changes can happen in the project. Now there is another document called as configuration management plan. Uh, Configuration management plan is actually about how the product configuration will be updated, which means there will be artifacts like should be a change request form, there should be a change log, there should be a connection between requirement traceability matrix. So we can track the requirements and the dependabilities in the project, that if you are going to change anything. And this will be connected to a system called as configuration management system, where we actually update the product versions. So configuration management system have something called as version control system, where we can have the versions of the product. What was the version 1, version 2, 1.1, 1.2, 1.2.1. So that is what contains according to the configuration management systems. And whenever it comes to changes, so for that, we have all these things which I have mentioned above. But to approve the changes, we have something called as change control board, normally led by a sponsor, and they can issue change, they can approve change requests directly. And if not, if you guys will stop playing with the mouses so I can do it, please don't use the mouses on the screen. I have to lock it otherwise. Keep your hands away from the screens if you're using the mobile. Uh, so I was writing here that change control board will be there, uh, which will be working as per the change management plan. So in that situation, they can approve the request directly if the sponsor is not the part of, if the sponsor is not the part of change control board, CCB, then CCB after decision, after decision will send change request to sponsor for approval. And the purpose of change is what? Look, change does not mean that you have to change this, everything. The purpose of change is what? There are four types of change requests, which we discuss in our course. One is called as preventive actions. One is called as defect repair actions for the change request. One is called as corrective action change request. And one is called as update change request, which means we need to update the documents or baselines. So based upon the authority given in the governance plans, in the change management plan, uh, project manager can approve some change request. Organization managers can approve some change request. Function manager can approve some change request. And ultimately, if there is something required to update the baseline, so this is the only change request for which it can only be approved by the sponsor. No one else can approve the change request which requires any updates in the baselines. So that was the topic I was thinking to discuss today. So those who have confusion, they can actually understand that how the changes in project happen and how they are controlled. So these are what the types of change requests. Whenever we are making changes, we need to understand that we are doing the corrective action, preventive action, or defect repair action change request. And ultimately, if it requires approvals, so it has to be approved by the sponsors after the change control board or being the part of change control board. Whenever the change is filed, what is the procedure of change? The procedure of change is what? That stakeholders, any stakeholders, the key stakeholders or relevant stakeholders can submit the change request. And once they will submit a change request to who? Submit the change request to who? To the project manager. They can submit a change request to project manager. And once the project manager will receive the change request, project manager will enlist into a document called as change log. What is change log? It contains the change that, okay, change is registered and what will be the status of the change. Uh, what date it was filed, what is the change about. And after enlisting into the change log, project manager will evaluate the change if it requires any baseline update. If it requires any baseline update. So evaluation of change request, that how this change request can update the project or its objectives. After evaluation, because project manager is not the decision maker, so the change request after evaluation will be submitted to the change control board, which is the combination of subject matter experts and sponsor, and project manager also sit in the meeting. Whatever the outcome is, it can be outcome could be what? It could be accepted, it could be rejected, it could be deferred. So in case of deferred, we need to know that what's when next we need to submit the change request, and this information will be updated in the change log, that how to do this. And if it is approved or rejected or deferred, project manager will communicate the status of change request to stakeholders, that the change request was filed. Is it updated or accepted or rejected or deferred? If it is accepted, then project manager will update the documents. Then update the relevant documents. That's the procedure of change in the project in predictive way. So you guys can actually follow the change request process. And this thing is called as in project management or integration. This process name is called as integrated change control or perform integrated change control, which means that any change which will be made, it has to be, the purpose is it has to be documented. Why it has to be documented? To avoid gold plating or scope creep. This is the process called as integrated change control. The purpose is You have to document everything, and because of that, we can avoid gold plating. In gold plating, your profits will be reduced, and in scope creep, your budget will increase. So this process is called as integrated change control, and project management says that any change we are going to make it, it has to go through the process of integrated change control, which means the whole procedure. People will file the change request. It will go to project manager. Project manager will enlist into the change log, and then it will be evaluated, and then it will be submitted to the change control board with the decision or with the opinion of project manager whether to accept or reject the change. Change control board will review it. They can accept it, reject it, or defer it, and they will update the status in the change log, whatever the outcome. And project manager will communicate the status to the stakeholders that what they can do and what they cannot. And if it requires update, so after the approval, project manager will update the documents and give the updated documents to the execution team. So the execution team can now work with the current versions of the product, and ultimately once they are updating the product, so they have to update the uh, configuration management system for the version control, that because of this change, this is the new version. So now execution team will work with this new version of the change. So I hope this was a brief information related to change. It might have helped you. I will export the board and I will input it into the chat window so all of you can have the access to this image also. Yes, Vakar, you want to ask something? Go on.
Yes, sir. Sir, is it a gold plating is bad thing?
Gold plating or scope creep is not a bad thing. You can always provide extra work. What our
Yes,
purpose
sir.
is that whatever you're providing, it has to be documented. So you can backtrack it.
Okay.
We are not stopping you to
Thank you.
provide anything extra. Provide extra, but document it.
Okay.
Great. So I hope this was a small nugget of knowledge which will help you to revitalize your learning or re-stimulate your learning. Let's go back to the screen of the question and let's solve the questions. And I think I will keep it like this, that in every Saturday session, I will give you a small nugget of the knowledge so you can revitalize your learning and ultimately it will be bad value added to your learning also. So I will mute your mics now. You can answer on the chat window directly. So everyone should get the fair chance to reply in the chat window. Now, let me read the question for you that where is the question? An opportunity is outside the scope of the project is discovered by the team. Project manager decided to update the risk register and escalate the opportunity to a higher level. What should the project manager do next with this opportunity? We establish the contingency reserve to handle the opportunity, or no more action is required, or further monitoring the opportunity, or sharing this opportunity with another project. So you have already done your job. What you are going to do? Yes, miss. Now your answer is correct. Very good, Mrs. Sun. You have done your job. After finishing your job, what you have to do? Yes, is that correct? Usman, correct. Good. Who is remaining? Many are remaining. Vakar, yes. Suhail, yes. Good. You did your job. And in risk management, what I have taught you, if I think Zuhair and Vakar, you guys remember, it was in our Thursday class. Risk should be handled at its own appropriate level. What we call this thing? It has a framework that how the risk should be handled at its own appropriate level. What we call this terminology? Anyone of you remember? We call this thing integrated risk management, which means that risk should be handled at its own appropriate level. It provides us a guideline to do that. What is integrated risk management? That risk should be handled, how the risk should be handled at its own level. If it is related to Objective, who should handle it? You can answer on the chat window. If it is related to objective, who should handle it? Who should handle the project objective related risk? Exactly, project manager. Who should handle the benefit related risk? Program manager or sponsor. But normally program manager, because we are discussing about our organization. Who is responsible for strategic objective risk? No, Tawhid is for the other one. For strategic objective, we have portfolio manager. And for governance, we have TM. Exactly. That is called as integrated risk management. The risk should be handled at its own level so they can better oversee the risk and exploit the risk accordingly. Very good. Let's move next. An organization wants to transfer from a predictive to an agile approach. Which strategy will help the organization with this change? Create a task force of executive who will monitor agile projects on daily basis. Take a big bang approach of moving the whole organization to agile at once. Assign multiple managers who will be accountable for the agile approach, or improve readiness by addressing impediments and agile in the organization. Yes, look, logical. You, if this is the exam will look like that, you will read the options and you can easily realize that what is the correct answer. So yes, Zuhair and Usman, your answers are correct. The above written possibilities, they are not possibilities at all. So yes, exactly. The correct answer is D. We cannot become the dictator. Instead, as a project manager, we have to be a servant leader. And being servant leader, what we have to do? We have to facilitate. We have to facilitate. We cannot go as a dictator. Very nice. Let's go next. You are a PM working on critical projects. Some stakeholders have complained about some of the team members' performance. You want to understand the situation and provide feedback to the team ASAP. What three actions should you take to address this situation? And you need to select three answers. So tell me which three answers are correct. Request a manager performance review, define team ground rules, perform a retrospects, perform a daily team meeting, conduct an annual review. And I think you can directly eliminate two answers. So you will have directly three answers correct. Which three answers are correct? Please on the chat window. Yes, Usman. What about others? They are already complaining, Vakar. The first one. If you will ask them, then they will write the wrong report anyway. Sorry, yes, correct. Yes, Vakar, good. Well, yes, good. Manager is already complaining, so it cannot be the answer. And annual review has nothing to do with the project. So yes, remaining answers are B, C, and D. They are the correct answers. Very good. Let's go next. The marketing team is transferring to using hybrid approaches for their project. Marketing director is not knowledgeable. So this is our constraint. And the project manager needs a director support as the marketing director is the key stakeholder. That's what we said. This is the constraint. What should the project manager do to obtain the support? Mentor the marketing director on hybrid approaches, train the marketing team, and keep the director informed. So now this question is actually related to, if you remember the stakeholder grid, sorry, if you remember the stakeholder grid, low power, low interest, high power, high interest, interest and power. So this one is low power, low interest. This one is low power but high interest. This one is high interest and high power and low interest. And this one is high power and high interest. So if you want to achieve the support of key stakeholders, what you're going to do. This is what our stakeholder grid, which we discuss in a stakeholder chapter. So what you have to do. And I have taught you that you guys have to work one to one. If someone is asking you to provide something, don't ask them to do another thing. Don't send them or don't ask them to do another thing. So yes, Mesosa, your answer is correct. Usman, no. Filza, yes. Always try to do the interactive communication. Don't try to use all the time push communications. Push communication is not good at all time, especially when it comes to conflict or stakeholder engagement. In a stakeholder engagement, we don't use the push communications. So the best one is mentor. Why you guys are selecting team? Team has nothing to do with this. We are talking about director. We are talking about directors, right? Director support. So when it is about directors, members will not be the correct answer anyway. And D is, as I said, it's like this, that someone is asking you to do something and you are throwing them somewhere else. So don't play football with the stakeholders. Keep the ball with you and directly pass it to them. Great. Let's go next. Some members are frustrated by a new team member who worked in a scrum setting. This team member approaches member of the team on daily basis in what appears to be an attempt to engage in daily stand-up meeting. What should the project manager do? So direct that new team member on methodology the project team is using. Direct the team to continue discussion with the new team member. Direct the team to continue. I think they both are C, right? Both are same. They are the same. So one of them should. So ignore. Send an email to the project team outlining the communication strategy. So now you know the answer, right? What should be the correct answer? I just explained to you guys. Don't play the football with the stakeholder engagement. Sending an email will never be the correct answer. And continue will never be the correct answer. Why you want to continue? If someone is trying to teach something, let them discuss it and resolve the conflict, because in agile we have what? Team is self-organizing. They are coming to you. So what you have to do, you have to use the collaborate strategy. What is collaborative strategy? That discuss the questions, ask the questions. So yes, C is actually the correct answer. Direct the team to continue the discussion with the new team members, so we may find out a contributive solution. But here you are trying to become what? Instead of servant leader, you are trying to force. So we don't use force strategy. We use collaborative strategy. This is the best one. This is the win-win situation. In force, both of you are lose lose. And sending an email, it doesn't make a difference, because you are just wasting the time. It will increase the level of conflict anyway. So yes, C is actually the correct answer. Let's go next. I am answering it by myself, so I will keep quiet and you guys will answer it now. The programming activities of a project were planned to last 30 days per module. But first module has taken 40 days. As a project manager, what should you do? Issue a change request to change control code for the schedule. Identify ways to compress the schedule without impacting the baselines. Ask the team to work overtime to complete the project on time, and check the scope to verify if there is a scope creep and get the project on schedule. Which answer you think is a bit? Better answer. Uh, that's what we do in real life, Usman. But in as a proper or as a good uh, understanding, we don't. So Ashik, yes. Whenever something has happened, what you have to perform? Root cause analysis. This is what we are trying to teach, Bakar. Root cause analysis. So, which answer says that yes, Fariza, correct. Whenever something has happened, you have to find the reason instead of just keep throwing the work here and there. So, yes, all of you are correct. D is the answer. Then check why it has taken. Maybe you have done more than the required work. That's why it took time. In which meeting, imagine, in which meeting, if you are working in Agile, in which meeting we will do this? What we call that meeting where we check this or where we do this? What went wrong? We should stop doing it. What went good? We should continue doing it. And what we can do to make it better? Yes, very good. We do this thing in retro. In predictive, when we can do this? At the time of what we call these lines? Exactly. Phase review or phase gate. Look, that's what we call it, the comprehensive knowledge, which you can recall it on the right time if you see those similar things. That's the perfect stimulation of knowledge. Keep it up. You are a PM. Subject matter says that working in your project, identify an occurrence and ask you to include occurrence means issue, right? In the lesson learned register. As a project manager, what should you do? Request the SME to wait until the project closure phase. Ask the SME to document and capture the occurrence. Assign the task to the team member or take ownership of documenting this information. One answer is legitimate answer. Don't try to go here and there. Why? If you if you have to do this option, then why did you hire the team filter? Exactly, sir. Yes, Mrs. Yes, Mr. Zuhair. When we hire the team, let them do the task, right? Whenever the issue occur, what we say, you have to assign an owner to that person. So that is what we are doing. That we assign the ownership to someone, and these people will solve it and put it in the lesson and register. This thing to wait, this will never be the correct answer. And someone is telling the problem, so you are asking them do it by yourself. So surely it cannot be the legitimate answer anyway. And this, if there is no team, then you can do it. Otherwise, if C is there, then D cannot be the correct answer. Good. Let's go next. During a third iteration, a planned activity become more complex. Work should be delivered in the shortest time possible. What approach should be used in this situation? Team should request support from external team members. Team members bring SME to help them. Cross-functional team work together to complete the activity, or product owner should remove the complex activity from the backlog. Really? Exactly. All of you are correct. What we said, what we discussed, that during the iteration, can you add resources? What we said exclusively, when the sprint started or iteration has started, no work or no resources can be added. So this cannot be done. out of the league. And this is illegal, right? And that if it is complex, we will not do the work. So remaining answer is C. Cross-functional work should find a solution by themselves. If they don't understand or they don't do this, then they will go to, if they surrender, then they will go to who? Who will coach them? If the team surrender that it's out of their lead, saying yes, team leader or the coach or the project manager of the team. They will go to them and now team leader will provide his or her services. Good. An agile project in its sixth iteration out of 10, two are replaced. As the project entered the next iteration, the team velocity dropped and performance started to slip. What should a project manager do? Convene a team building event, escalate the issue to HR, guide the team to revert back to the forming and storming stage, escalate the issue to the sponsor. And you know the trick, how to eliminate it. Sean, there's a better answer than this because this is wrong. Ms. Osa, yes. Zuhair, yes. Good. Yes, very good. Look, we will not escalate our internal thing to the sponsor. It's not the right way. You will use all your channel, then the last point will be the sponsor. And till here, if you read it, maybe you are good. But this is the task of the team. Team is what? Self-organizing. So team should do by themselves, right? Self-organizing team is what? Team development exercise, forming, storming, norming, performing, and agile. When team has to organize by itself, then why you will jump in? It's their own issue. They should find out. You are sitting outside. How will you know that what they are doing? You will only hear this in the morning in the daily stand-up meeting. So you can remove those impediments, obstacles, or blockers. But these things should be done by the team itself. That's what we call it, self-organizing team. Great. You are the PM of a large IT project. Your agile team wants to develop quality standards. How should you coach the team? Read the options and answer it accordingly, please. I think we'll keep it as the last question that this is already the 10th question of the day. Take your time, answer it appropriately so we can finish easily. And as usual, answer on the chat window. And I will not speak with who's right or who's wrong. They are saying agile team, right? So when it is for agile team, when it is the agile team, they are asking to develop the quality standards, right? The question says anything related to tools or techniques. Zuhair, yes. Usman, yes. When we say quality standards, so we are talking about process, not about tools and techniques. And when we are saying agile team, so again, please remember agile is what? Self-organizing team. So you should not enforce. Team will decide and they will give it to you. Team will decide and they will give it to you. And then you have to govern it. Then you have to provide the governance for it by maintaining the psychological safe environment, by letting the team use the same governance so you cannot bypass this. So I got only two answers correct on the chat window. I can get more answers on the chat window, which could be correct. If your answers are not correct, please try to answer it again, because I will not speak until I got all the answers. Only Zuhair and Usman were with the correct answers. Oh, yes, good. Good comeback. Ashik, no. When team is doing the self-organizing, if you guys will keep forgetting this concept, that's what I always say, that please try to remember it by focusing it. That every time I'm repeating the same information, so try to save it. That you will not determine which is correct for the team. Team will determine what is correct for them. Incest will never be the correct answer. If you have this word, it will never be the correct answer. Simple. I don't know what is written. If I see incest, khalas, that's it, enough. I don't want to read further. Let it go. And you are not going to determine for the team. And you are not going to enforce for the team. So the remaining answer is A. That make your definition of that, which means make the process correct. If the process is correct, things will be correct by itself. So yes, A was the correct answer. So I hope today's session also should have added some value, not might. And we will continue doing it in the next upcoming Saturdays. But try to solve as many questions during the weekdays. And if you have some time, try to solve full test directly. And if you have any problem, you can reach to me directly that Imran, I'm facing this, so I can guide you what to do. So let's keep it here. Thank you very much for joining. I'll see you next Saturday.